reporting from the Smith House, where it has recently been discovered that this particular house in this location used to be part of the historic Underground Railroad. While most runaways began their journey unaided, each decade in which slavery was legal in the United States found an increasing amount of people willing to participate in the Underground Railroad. Although divided, the abolitionist movement was successful in expanding this informal network known as the Underground Railroad and publicizing it. The Underground Railroad, where it existed, offered local service to runaway slaves, assisting them from one point to another. Farther along, others would take the passenger into their transportation system until the final destination had been reached. The rapidity with which the term became commonly used did not mean that incidents of resistance to slavery increased significantly around 1830, or that more attempts were made to escape from bondage. It did mean that more white Northerners were prepared to aid runaways and to give some assistance to Northern blacks who had always made it their business to help escapees from slavery. The primary importance of the Underground Railroad was that it gave ample evidence to African Americans' capabilities and gave expression to African American philosophy. Perhaps the most important factor or aspect to keep in mind concerning the Underground Railroad is that its importance is not measured by the number of attempted or successful escapes from American slavery, but by the manner in which it consistently exposed the grim realities of slavery and refuted the claim that African Americans could not act or recognize on their own. The secondary importance of the Underground Railroad was that it provided an opportunity for sympathetic white Americans to play a role in resisting slavery. It also brought together, however uneasily at times, men and women of both races to begin to set aside assumptions about the other race and to work together on issues of mutual concern. At the most dramatic level, the Underground Railroad provided stories of guided escapes from the South, rescues of arrested fugitives in the North, complex communication systems, and individual acts of bravery and suffering. With little evidence that there were sliding doors or hidden passageways, today we are actually going to be able to show you the exact spot that slaves were hidden and transported while in the Underground Railroad.
We're down here in the basement, and this is where the tunnel is that leads out to the shed. So this is where the slaves could have ran out through the tunnel and ended up in the sled. If some people came looking for them, came knocking on the door, they could run down to the basement, come over into this tunnel, and crawl all the way through to the shed and be safe and secure. So as you can see right now, it's pretty small. It was probably bigger back in the day a little bit. There's probably wasn't as much gravel and stuff down here as there is now. But it's pretty tight fit, but they didn't really need much to do. They just had to get through and get out, and it was only in use of emergencies. So this is where they would have started to end up over by the shed, which we're going to show you in a little bit.
To my left over here, you can see part of the shed. This is one of the entrances to the tunnel. So I'm going to jump down into the entrance and kind of see what it was like then. So come along. Ready? All right. As you can see down here, there's a little passageway that's right down here, which leads to a tunnel on the inside of the house, which we're going to see in a little bit. But this is where the slaves would have came out if something was going on in the house, some people were coming to look for them. This is where they would have made their way through the tunnel and out here into the shed so they wouldn't be able to find them. So here's the tunnel. You can see it's pretty deep. It might be kind of interesting on how I'm going to get out of here, but
we're sitting here with Paul Smith, who recently moved to this residence and was actually the discoverer of the Underground Railroad site. It's nice to have you with us. Our first question is, when was this house actually built?
I believe the house was built sometime in the 1850s. I looked and I realized that it was a tunnel and it looked very old, and I didn't know why it was there, so then I began trying to research some history of the house.
And what have you discovered through this research? Have you heard any good stories about slaves being here? What have you found out?
Well, I have found out that 3 sisters built this house sometime in the 1850s, and somewhere along the line it became a part of the Underground Railroad, and the tunnel is actually what is left of that Underground Railroad on this property.
Well, thank you very much for being with us, and we appreciate you letting us use your house for our interview.